It's no exaggeration to say Ontario is facing one of the most pressing and significant challenges in the history of our province.
Unveiling the team to take on a tariff fight.
Tonight, Doug Ford is sworn in as Premier. His cabinet revealed their plan to face the challenges ahead.
Good evening. We'll have that story in a moment, but we begin with breaking news tonight. Emergency crews are on the scene of a high-rise fire in North York.
We're told it broke out on the 21st floor and one person has died. CTV's Janice Golding joins us live from Grenoble Drive, east of Don Mills Road, with the latest. Janice.
Hi, Nathan. Yes, a woman has died, unfortunately, in a fire here at 45 Grenoble Drive, which is in the Don Mills and Eglinton area. Fire crews tell us that they responded to a call at 3:22 this afternoon, and when they arrived on scene, they saw smoke. So they quickly escalated this to a second alarm fire, which means there were 16 vehicles on scene. When fire crews got here, they rushed up to the 21st floor. They found a unit which's door was locked, so they had to break down the door. And when they got in, they say they were encountering nothing but thick black smoke. There was zero visibility. Crews immediately started searching for any potential people who might be in the unit and quickly located two people, a man and a woman who we are told are middle-aged. They were rushed to hospital in critical condition. Unfortunately, the woman did die in hospital of her injuries. Now, we are told that the building was evacuated in large part, although there were certain people who were told to shelter in place, but people were allowed back into their units at around 5 p.m. because the air quality was deemed safe enough for people to re-enter their units. Apart from on the 21st floor, those people are still not permitted to go home. We are told that the fire was restricted to the one unit and it is under control, although there was some damage, smoke and fire heat damage in the hallway outside. We also spoke to Fire Chief Jim Jessup about a half hour ago, and here is what he has to say about fighting high-rise fires.
The fire is under control. And Toronto fire crews have completed the ventilation of smoke throughout the building. We have monitored the air. It has been deemed safe, and we are now allowing residents back up to their units as long as they're not on the 21st floor. The Toronto Fire Investigations Division has been notified, and they are en route, and they will work with Toronto Police Service and the Office of the Fire Marshal on the investigation of the origin, cause, and circumstances of this fire.
Now, while fire crews say they don't know exactly where this fire started, we have spoken to some people who were on scene earlier, and they believe it started in the kitchen again. A woman has died in this fire, and a man is fighting for his life. We were told when he was last seen, he was awake but in critical condition. Reporting live, I'm Janice Golding. Now back to Michelle and Nathan.
Thank you, Janice. A fire at a car dealership on Islington, south of Bloor, is being treated as arson. It broke out at around 2:40 this morning. Now, firefighters were able to get inside and put out the flames. No one was hurt, and there's still no word from police on possible suspects.
We turn to dramatic video, a bird's-eye view of a jewelry store robbery in progress.
6 teenagers were arrested, and tonight we're getting insight into how police took them into custody. CTV's Beth McDonnell joins us live from just north of the Allen and 401 with the story. Beth.
Nathan, York Regional Police tracked a stolen vehicle from Vaughan to Markham to this plaza in North York. That's when the attempted robbery began at the jewelry store behind me, and the police helicopter cameras were rolling.
They're masked up. They're looking to do something.
This is York Regional Police helicopter footage of 6 teenage suspects trying to rob a high-end North York jewelry store. It's Friday, just after 1 in the afternoon, near Wilson and the Allen. After failing to slip through the double-locked doors, the culprits worked to break the store's exterior glass.
Up to the window, smashing in the window with a hammer.
Unsuccessful once again, they jump in the car. Just as they're about to pull away, police hit the car. The suspects scatter on foot before all 6 are caught by police.
I mean, it's very nerve-wracking when you see it, because you know something bad is about to happen, and you know something bad's about to happen to you.
Daniel Freiberg helps run the family business. He says this is the 3rd time thieves have targeted the store within months.
So someone will come, will unlock the door.
All during daytime hours, leaving staff shaken. In December, he says suspects got through the sliding door, broke through the second door before pulling out sledgehammers, breaking showcases, and stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars of merchandise. He says in January, suspects smashed the front door but couldn't get in the store. In this third attempt, stopped by police, officers charged 3 16-year-olds and 3 17-year-olds.
It's very concerning that anybody would be committing such a blatant act during the day in front of a parking lot full of bystanders and witnesses.
Friday's incident, Freiburg believes police did an excellent job, but says because young offenders can often be out of custody quickly and reoffend, more intensive efforts are required to stop these crimes.
It has to go above a street level, right? So more police presence is excellent to help prevent these type of situations from happening. And you just need to see continuous arrests above the street.
Police say the jewelry store is doing everything right. The double locked doors, buzzing customers in, and having cameras all helps prevent thefts, so they can focus on apprehending the criminals. Police say there have been 5 similar incidents like this in York Region since the start of the year. 11 people have been arrested so far. Reporting live, I'm Beth McDonnell. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Beth. And still ahead, multiple Canadians executed in China. Global Affairs Canada confirms it happened earlier this year, condemning Beijing for following through after repeated calls for clemency.
But first to the swearing in of Premier Doug Ford and his cabinet today. It comes 3 weeks after the Progressive Conservatives won their 3rd consecutive majority government.
There are some changes of note as the legislature gets set to resume at Queen's Park April 14th. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris joins us live tonight with the details. Siobhan.
So no changes in the number of faces around the cabinet table, 36, and those faces are all the same. But Doug Ford feels this is the moment for this group of people. He's leaning on their experience to face the tariff threat. It was a ceremony for Ontario, but the country. Oh, returning to the post of Premier, his Progressive Conservatives elected to their 3rd consecutive majority.
I, Doug Ford, swear.
Doug Ford delivered a message of pride in sovereignty, declaring Canada can't be sold.
Honestly, I'm getting chills all up and down my body right now. I honestly am.
He says in the face of mounting U.S. tariffs,
my friends, it's no exaggeration to say Ontario is facing one of the most pressing and significant challenges in the history of our province.
Despite generations of companionship and collaboration, Ford acknowledges our relationship with the U.S. is in for some rough waters.
We will never stop working and engaging with our American counterparts to protect and enhance the most successful trading relationship the world has ever seen.
The Premier's new cabinet to meet this moment is unchanged in size, 36 ministers, no new faces, but with some job title swaps.
I think the message of stability and certainty in this environment, that's one of the things that we bring to the table.
Peter Bethlen-Falvey is back in charge of Ontario's finances.
I am prepared to spend billions of dollars because we campaign on a commitment to protect Ontarians.
I, Stephen Francis Lecce, swear that I will duly...
Stephen Lecce remains Minister of Energy, dropping electrification, adding mining to his responsibilities.
President Trump has upended the world order. And we're going to need every government, every regulator, every agency to move with absolute speed to get shovels in the ground.
There's a major change in education. Paul Calandra slides over from Municipal Affairs and Housing, where the government has struggled to make headway on its goal of building 1.5 million homes by 2031. Calandra takes over at Education ahead of teacher contract negotiations next year.
And I know he has the ability and the track record of moving things forward and getting things done.
There's no change on major portfolios like health, transportation, and infrastructure. MPPs return to their desks at Queen's Park on April 14th when they'll elect a new Speaker of the House. April 15th, the next day, that's when we'll get the speech from the throne where we'll hear more about where Doug Ford wants to take the province over the next 4 years. Reporting live, I'm Siobhan Morris. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Siobhan. Also tonight, raising concerns about the city's economic action plan. Councillors question just how much Mayor Chow's response to Trump's tariffs will cost the city of Toronto. Canada's Transportation Safety Board will release a preliminary report tomorrow into the crash of a Delta Airlines plane at Pearson Airport last month. 21 people were injured when the jet flipped upside down upon landing on February 18th. The plane touched down after a flight from Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport. Pearson officials said earlier that day they've been dealing with high winds and frigid temperatures. The airline presented $30,000 to all of the passengers soon after the incident. A number of lawsuits have been filed following the crash landing.
A live look outside tonight on what has been a wonderful Wednesday weather-wise. If you like sun and heat, this is the best day of the week by far, and it happens to be the very last day of winter. Lindsay Morrison is here with a look at the current conditions. Just glorious out there.
Absolutely, Michelle. It is interesting that we should spend the last day of winter. It also be our first 20-degree day of the season and easily our warmest day of the year by far. Temperature has just cooled ever so slightly at Pearson to 19 degrees. Last hour, we were 21.1 degrees. It is, however, cooler on the Toronto Islands at 10 degrees. Cooler by the lakes certainly applies here. Look at this. Many communities still in the 20s this hour. Peterborough, Hamilton, 22 degrees right now in Niagara Falls. We've been dealing with some southerly winds for the most part. We're getting some gusts upwards of 30 and 40 kilometers per hour right now. All is clear on the satellite and radar temporarily. We do have some showers on the way. And guess what? In just a few hours, we are going to officially welcome spring at 5:01 a.m. tomorrow. But this weekend, it's going to look and feel a little more like winter again. More on your forecast is coming up. For now, Nathan and Michelle, back to you.
Thanks, Lindsay. And what a way to say goodbye to winter.
People put away the parkas, some pulling out the T-shirts and shorts today. CTV's Alison Hurst is live from Woodbine Beach tonight. How does it feel there?
It's perhaps a little cooler, kind of like Lindsay was mentioning. That wind down here makes it a little bit chilly along the water, but elsewhere in the city we saw people wearing their T-shirts and shorts, trading in perhaps their snow pants and jackets to take advantage of this warm weather.
Skating rinks have seen better days, but it's the best in a while at the skate park.
So I'm glad I can actually be mobile and actually leave my house.
Also making it possible to practice their tricks and make new friends.
It's perfect weather. It's not too hot, but you can still actually go outside, which is awesome.
At Woodbine Beach, Ricky Wang and his friends are also thrilled with what Mother Nature is serving up.
Honestly, anything above 10 degrees, we tend to come play beach. So we're just kind of excited, honestly, for summer.
Anna Wickenden and her 4-year-old are taking advantage, getting out of the house to build a sandcastle.
When the clouds kind of part a little bit and you get a tiny bit of the warmth of the sun, it just feels like a little bit of magic's kind of coming through.
The sunny weather is a big change from last month when the city was pummeled by snowstorms and buried under drifts.
I really don't like snow at all, because the thing is you cannot go out, you have to always take care of the shoes, and plus I have slept a lot in snow as well, so pretty much I don't like it.
Most couldn't imagine that weeks later they'd be peeling off a layer.
It's been a long time since I've been able to do that, so yeah, it's great.
Snowbanks still line the basketball court where Ryan Dang was getting some early season reps.
It's amazing. I don't gotta wear a winter jacket anymore. I don't gotta walk in the snow all mushy and stuff. It's beautiful.
A day Rich Carter has been looking forward to so he could break out his racket.
It's the first day we've been out for tennis since November, October, something like that. And it looks like it's going to be the best day for the next couple of weeks, so we're taking advantage.
Oh, it's beautiful. I mean, who doesn't like being outside?
The warmth giving a reason for many to celebrate this last day of winter.
And lots of people are still outside enjoying the weather. The beach volleyball courts have been filling up in the last hours that we have been here this afternoon. And we also saw some people carrying their stand-up paddle boards and heading out for a rather brisk, I would say, paddle on the water. It was a little choppy, a little windy, so no doubt it probably didn't last all that long, but we did see them kind of returning there at the end. So perhaps some instead are trying to skip spring and head straight to summer. Reporting live, I'm Alison Hurst. Michelle, back to you.
That would be nice, but still looks lovely there. And how about this for a contrast? It was just over a month ago when we were hit with those back-to-back snowstorms that blanketed Toronto. Today, the city's executive committee passed a motion to conduct a review into contracts with private companies, questioning why the cleanup took so long. One of the reasons, according to the head of Transportation Services, was that some sidewalk plows had to be taken off the roads for servicing. A full report on the response is expected in July.
Also at the city's executive committee today, questions about Toronto's response to tackle U.S. tariffs.
The plan was passed, but not before questions were raised about the potential impact on taxpayers and city operations. CTV's Mike Walker reports.
Toronto is one step closer on its response to U.S. tariffs and pledged to buy Canadian.
We will never back down. When we are being attacked, we will respond.
The executive committee approving the mayor's action plan that will award contracts for construction work valued under $8.8 million and for goods and services under $353,000 exclusively to Canadian companies, as well as deem U.S. companies ineligible for new contracts if it's in the city's best interest.
Is a comprehensive and proactive response to protect our city's economic interests.
The plan also includes a 6-month industrial property tax deferral for some 2,000 businesses hardest hit by tariffs. The strategy welcomed by business leaders who came to City Hall.
By prioritizing local suppliers for procurement contracts, we build resilience into our own supply chains, but we also create local jobs.
Despite the unanimous approval, concerns raised by councillors over several unknowns.
Do we know what the cost will be to Toronto taxpayers and our own budget?
We just can't tell at this moment in time.
Councillor Josh Matlow believes the proposed strategy was hastily put together.
Without knowing what the impact will be on taxpayers, what hole will be in our budget, I think it's irresponsible to simply just say no to all of that without knowing what no means.
Currently, contracts with U.S. companies account for 10% of the city's capital budget.
If we are considering banning American companies, that we do give some consideration. It's a company that hires hundreds of Canadians. What is the impact on their jobs and their livelihoods?
Amid the uncertainty over costs and the evolving trade war, the city manager insists steps will be taken to protect taxpayers.
Situation where it was, very clear that the cost differential is just something that's not in the best interest of this community. We bring that back to council for consideration.
The mayor noting this is only the first step of a multi-pronged strategy.
This is what we are going to be doing the first 30 days.
This plan will go before City Council for approval next week. Mike Walker, CTV News.
The federal government announced more than $2.5 billion to help build new rental housing in the city. The funding will help create nearly 5,000 rental homes, including more than 1,000 affordable units. The buildings will go up across the city from Scarborough to Etobicoke. 7 different projects will benefit from the funding, with construction expected to begin by the end of next year.
Why is it historic? Because it's the first time the federal government are willing to batch all the projects together and say to Toronto, we trust you to deliver them. It is first time. It is a Toronto built, modeled under the BC built that was done a couple of years ago with the province in British Columbia. When I saw that, and I said, wait a second, we too are building housing. So I immediately said to the finance minister, what about us? We are ready to partner with you.
The federal government also reaffirmed their support to help the city deal with homelessness, is committing just under $26 million to help provide health and mental health supports, as well as hiring more frontline support workers.
To a developing story tonight, Global Affairs Canada has confirmed Canadians were executed earlier this year in China.
The deaths being strongly condemned by officials in this country. CTV's Rahim Ladani joins us in studio with more. Rahim.
Nathan and Michelle, there are many details of this situation which have still not been made public, but Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister has confirmed that 4 Canadians were executed. Officials in Canada have confirmed that multiple Canadian citizens were executed in the People's Republic of China earlier this year. Global Affairs Canada says Canada strongly condemns China's use of the death penalty, which is irreversible and inconsistent with basic human dignity. Canada repeatedly called for clemency for these individuals at the senior-most levels and remains steadfast in its opposition to the use of the death penalty in all cases, everywhere.
Execution of Westerners in China is rare. The last such known case, publicly known case, was more than 10 years ago.
Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister has confirmed that 4 Canadians were executed. But the government says they did not include Robert Lloyd Schellenberg. Schellenberg, who's from Abbotsford, British Columbia, was sentenced to death for drug smuggling by a Chinese court in 2019. Beijing says the evidence in the cases involving Canadian nationals is solid, but have not provided further details. A spokesperson for the Chinese embassy in Ottawa says China is a rule of law country. Whoever violates the law of China must be held accountable in accordance with the law. Drug-related crime is a severe crime recognized worldwide as extremely harmful to the society and will be faced with severe penalties in all countries.
It's very likely that these executions were probably for drugs offenses, which fail to meet the international standard when it comes to the death penalty, that i.e., these executions may have been in violation of international law.
According to Amnesty International, China executes more people than any other country in the world. It's believed at least 100 Canadians are currently being held in Chinese prisons. And these executions come as relations between Canada and China have broken down.
The timing of the execution, I don't think is accidental. It's just to show to Canada, look, you will have to make concessions if you want to see the relationship improve.
Global Affairs Canada says it's providing consular assistance to the victims' families. In Beijing's justification of these executions, the Chinese embassy says Canada should respect China's judicial sovereignty and to stop making irresponsible remarks. Reporting live, I'm Rahim Ladani. Nathan, I'll send it back to you.
Canadian politicians are reacting to Donald Trump's latest remarks about our country.
The U.S. president thinks dealing with a liberal will be easier, noting the conservative leader is no friend of his. As CTV's Judy Trin reports, that certainly got the ear of Pierre Poilievre.
With Canada and the U.S. locked in a trade war, Donald Trump weighed in on who he wants to negotiate with.
The conservative that's running is stupidly no friend of mine. I don't know him, but he said negative things. So when he says negative things, I couldn't care less. I think it's easier to deal, actually, with a liberal.
There was no response from the Prime Minister's office. Mark Carney spent most of the day in closed-door meetings, but his conservative opponent addressed it within the opening minutes of his news conference in Sudbury.
It's clear that President Trump wants the Liberals in power because they will keep this country weak.
Some analysts say Trump's comments will help Pierre Poilievre fight back against liberal attack ads like this one.
Everything is broken.
Everything is broken.
The Liberal campaign is looking to make any link they can between Mr. Poilievre and Mr. Trump, as are a number of third-party organizations right now. And this undermines all of that.
Since this November meeting in Mar-a-Lago, Trump has been talking about turning Canada into the 51st state. Before launching a trade war earlier this month, Trump spoke about using economic force against Canada. Although Canadian politicians have talked about toning down the rhetoric over tariffs, Trump is not doing the same.
They give us nothing, and they are the worst people to negotiate with.
Canada has retaliated against Trump's 25% tariffs, but the White House is expected to put more protectionist measures in within weeks.
It doesn't matter who's sitting in the Prime Minister's office up in Ottawa. The Trump administration is still going to have complaints about the United States' trade relationship with Canada being unbalanced from their perspective.
Since being sworn in, Prime Minister Carney has flown overseas to meet with the leaders of Britain and France, but has yet to speak with the American president. With an election around the corner, multiple polls show that dealing with Trump is the top issue for Canadians. Judy Trin, CTV News, Ottawa.
Meanwhile, the leader of the federal Conservatives vowed to unlock the riches of a critical mineral deposit in northwestern Ontario.
We've known about this place for a long time. Why are there no shovels in the ground? Why are there no paychecks in workers' pockets? Well, the answer is the Liberals did everything they could to block this project. They have a keep it in the ground ideology. They have an anti-resource development policy in C-69. They've been sitting on the permits for 5 years.
If elected, Pierre Poilievre says his government will set a deadline of 6 months to greenlight all federal permits for the long-delayed Ring of Fire project. He also promised to spend $1 billion to build a road network linking the potential mining site to Ontario's highway network. The Tory leader insists the moves will allow for access to billions of dollars in resources and make the Canadian economy less dependent on the U.S.
Israel resumed ground operations in the Gaza Strip today. The military says it retook part of a corridor that divides the northern area of the territory from the south. It happened as local health workers said another series of Israeli airstrikes killed at least 38 Palestinians. The renewed violence has been condemned by Western nations, including France and Germany, as well as Qatar and Egypt, which had been mediating ceasefire talks. Yesterday, more than 400 people were killed in Israeli airstrikes. Israel says the attacks are only the first step and will worsen if hostages being held by Hamas are not returned. Israel has also told Gaza residents that evacuation from combat zones would begin shortly.
The White House suggested the U.S. could take control of Ukrainian power plants to ensure their security. Donald Trump also told his Ukrainian counterpart that America's expertise would be helpful in running the facilities. The two leaders spoke today. Trump posted a statement on Truth Social that reads in part, "Just completed a very good telephone call with President Zelenskyy of Ukraine. It lasted approximately 1 hour. Much of the discussion was based on the call made yesterday with President Putin in order to align both Russia and Ukraine in terms of their requests and needs." Ukraine released a photo of Volodymyr Zelenskyy on the phone. The Ukrainian leader described it as a very positive, very substantive, and frank conversation. He said Trump shared details of his call with the Russian president on Tuesday and confirmed that Kyiv is ready to implement a U.S. proposal that Ukraine and Russia halt attacks on each other's energy infrastructure for 30 days.
Coming up on CTV News, a surprise addition to the program at the Ballet. Canadian pride takes center stage as an orchestra echoes the patriotism of the moment. The story still ahead.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, door-to-door sales are banned in Ontario, but companies may still try to sell you some services. A senior was just sold a furnace and air conditioning protection plan. The only thing is she doesn't own a furnace or an air conditioner. We investigate. That's just ahead.
Well, on this warm Wednesday, those of you in the Niagara region, the big winners. 23.1 degrees today in Vineland. It's also quite warm in northern parts of our province, 18 degrees in Algonquin Park. Now, we were close to record warmth here in Toronto. The record to beat was 22.8 degrees. Do you remember this week? Back in 2012, we climbed all the way to 26 degrees. Only this year, our temperatures are set to fall from here. We're going to take a look at your weekend weather coming up, and stay with us. We've got another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV.
Door-to-door sales in Ontario were banned 7 years ago, but companies can still approach homeowners with certain products or services.
A senior in Scarborough signed a contract last year to protect appliances in her home that she doesn't even have. Pat Foran explains on Consumer Alert. Pat.
Thanks, Michelle and Nathan. The senior has memory problems and doesn't remember signing the contract. It's a protection plan for her furnace and air conditioner. She is now being sued, even though she doesn't have a furnace or an air conditioner.
You're being sued.
Mark Blaschek visits her friend Dolores McLeod often, as both live in the same Scarborough complex. McLeod has early onset dementia and has trouble remembering things.
I don't like the fact that Dolores was taken advantage of.
Last April, McLeod signed a 5-year contract to purchase carbon offsets and a furnace and air conditioner protection plan for almost $102 a month. It's something she doesn't remember signing. Did someone come to your door?
They must have, but I don't remember who or when. I'm sorry.
McLeod got a letter from a lawyer saying she is now being sued for not paying for the protection plan for the furnace and the air conditioner. But she has no furnace and she has no air conditioner. McLeod received a notice saying she must pay just over $2,300 immediately. She doesn't have AC and heats her home with electric baseboards and a gas fireplace.
The protection plan is for furnace maintenance and also air conditioning maintenance. And we don't have those things in our units.
In the follow-up call Offset Ontario made to McLeod, she told them twice she didn't have an air conditioner.
I don't have an air conditioner. Does that lower it?
No. I'll just repeat myself again.
Okay, as I said, I don't have an air conditioner.
So it's a yes, right?
Yes.
Blazczak feels her friend should not be responsible to pay more than $2,300 to get out of the contract.
I want my friend to get some justice, to have this letter go away.
When CTV News reached out to Offset Ontario, a spokesperson for the company said Offset Ontario is committed to ensuring any contracts are not placed with vulnerable people. The file has been canceled from collections, and the individual is no longer liable for any debt owing. Blazczak is relieved for her friend.
It's great that the situation is resolved, and thank you so much, CTV. And Pat, thank you so much for all you've done for us.
And while door-to-door sales are banned in Ontario for many products and services, it's not all of them. If you're approached at your door, be careful, and if in doubt, just say no and don't sign anything. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
All right, didn't feel like it, but it's the last day of winter.
We made it! Yay! Remember when winter started? It flew by, or did it? I don't know.
I don't know. We had a pretty significant winter, wouldn't you say? But yeah, what a way to end it. Yeah. 21 degrees today. Did you get outside?
In the morning, it felt amazing, I know, but guess what? We'll be dancing out of here, right? Yes. Because it's still sunny out and it's warm. It really does put a spring in your step.
Okay, well, enjoy this evening because things are going to change a little bit. Not quite the way things have changed for our friends in Northern Ontario. I want to show you Timmins right now where, yeah, the weather story is a little bit different right now. Snow is falling, snow is on the ground, and winter storm warnings are in place. Here's a look at those weather advisories that are in place across northern sections of the province. It is worth mentioning that this same area of low pressure, it's going to bring us a little bit of rain through the night tonight. Here's a look at those watches, warnings, advisories. Still very much winter in that part of the province, and you can see the snow on the radar. Now, there are also some pretty severe thunderstorms impacting areas stateside. These are going to weaken as they make their way toward us here in southern Ontario, but a rumble of thunder possible in southwest Ontario later tonight and overnight. We're not looking at significant rainfall tonight or tomorrow, but maybe a couple of millimeters expected, and showers at times, especially through the overnight hours. There's about 4 a.m. Waking up tomorrow morning, heading out the door, maybe bring the umbrella with you, but you're not going to need it all day long. Much of the day will be dry. Into the evening, this is where we see the potential for a changeover to some light flurries. Nothing significant, but you might see them out there. Then things are going to clear out quite nicely for Friday. We will be back into some sunshine, and the temperature won't be too bad either yet. Overnight tonight, we remain in the double digits, 10 for the low, and then tomorrow's high expected to be around 13 degrees in the morning, and then our temperature will fall as the afternoon goes on. Winds are also going to be quite strong tomorrow, coming out of the south and southwest initially, gusting to around 60 kilometers per hour, then changing to more of a northwest flow, and that is going to contribute to the cool down. We'll really notice it into the weekend and for a good portion of next week. So even though spring is about to arrive, I wouldn't exactly say it's going to be looking and feeling quite as much like the season. Here's your weekend: 6 degrees on Saturday, overnight low -8. Sunshine on Sunday, but a daytime high of 1. And then just a heads up, Sunday into Monday, it doesn't look like it with these icons, but we could be in for a little bit of snow through the overnight hours. There's a chance of flurries during the day on Monday. And look at those daytime highs and overnight lows. Quite a bit cooler next week than what we experienced today. That's your look at the weather. Nathan, over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Also tonight, new research uncovers the dangers of cannabis use for young people and the increased risk of heart attack or stroke. The alarming results of a new medical study coming up.
Since legalization here in Canada, well over 6 years ago, marijuana use has been normalized.
But a new study out of Boston University suggests using cannabis may be linked to a higher risk of heart attack. We get the details from our health reporter, Pauline Chan.
The researchers did a retrospective study of more than 4.6 million marijuana users, plus a meta-analysis of 12 previously presented studies. It found a 50% increased risk of heart attack in those who used cannabis, and surprisingly, those under age 50 were 6 times more likely to suffer a heart attack.
Higher risk of cardiovascular events like heart attacks, arrhythmias, heart failure, strokes, and all-cause mortality, which is especially surprising because the cohort we chose was a young cohort and relatively healthy with no hypertension, diabetes.
The researchers say some caution must be taken in interpreting the findings because cannabis use is often associated with use of other illicit substances, such as cocaine. Doctors say the mechanisms or components of marijuana which affect the cardiovascular system are not well understood, but the researchers hypothesize cannabis might affect heart rhythm regulation, heighten oxygen demand in the heart muscle, and contribute to endothelial dysfunction, making it harder for blood vessels to relax and expand, and so interrupting blood flow. One previous study suggested the risk of heart attack peaked at 1 hour after consumption. Dr. Ibrahim Kamel recommends doctors regularly ask patients about their cannabis use, much like asking about smoking.
The amount of evidence is growing and by every day. And I think that they should have a frank discussion with their patients that, well, cannabis is legal does not mean safe.
The findings will be presented at an upcoming American Cardiology Conference. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
As the trade and tariff war continues to drag on, there is no shortage of points of patriotism from across the country.
And that includes at the National Ballet, where Canadian pride has recently taken center stage. CTV's John Musselman explains.
2,000 people eagerly await the opening movement of Tchaikovsky's Swan Lake. Maestro David Briskin does something unexpected. Our national anthem fills the Four Seasons Center for the Performing Arts. Patrons stand and cheer, and some even sing along.
I wanted it to be authentic, and I said, so let's not commit to how long we do it, how many performances, let's give it a try. But the result was just beyond anyone's imagination. It seemed to have provided a cathartic moment.
It catches some by surprise. There's no announcement beforehand. Briskin says it started about 10 days ago with a recommendation by one of his orchestra members.
This is a moment to take one anthem that we all know, that we all sing, and raise our voices as one in show of support for one another and for the country.
The anthem opening is part of a 17-show run of Swan Lake performed by the National Ballet of Canada. The arts offer an escape from the daily political headlines, especially the ongoing tariff wars. Still, Briskin says this is in no way a political statement.
It's really touched me quite deeply to see the response. As I said, you know, we hear "O Canada" before a hockey game, and we hear it at a baseball game, and it's kind of pro forma, or we'll hear it sung kind of stylized by someone. But this is just a very straightforward singing of the anthem, which just provides a moment of clarity and unity, and I think just a little bit of catharsis for people in these times.
And patrons seem to welcome the patriotic opening.
Although it's not the greatest circumstances that we start doing these things more often and start feeling this national pride, I'm really grateful for it, and it's something that we really need.
And I was so happy to be here to be able to stand up and then sing the national anthem as well. So if they continue on, it's in solidarity for the whole nation.
The anthem has created plenty of interest online and on social media with more than 96,000 views. John Musselman, CTV News.
After the break, the fate of Hudson's Bay in limbo. The doors are still open and shoppers welcome as lawyers work to get the green light to liquidate. We'll have the latest on the court proceedings.
It's no exaggeration to say Ontario is facing one of the most pressing and significant challenges in the history of our province.
Updating our top stories, a warning about those U.S. tariffs from the premier as his government was sworn in after being elected to a third straight majority. There were no new additions to the cabinet, but Paul Calandra has been moved to the education portfolio, and Rob Flack is now housing minister. MPPs return to the legislature April 14th.
Is a comprehensive and proactive response to protect our city's economic interests
The mayor's strategy to combat tariffs was approved by the executive committee today. The plan deems U.S. companies ineligible for contracts if it's in the city's best interest. There will also be a 6-month industrial property tax deferral for some businesses hardest hit by the duties. City Council will vote on the plan next week.
Perfect weather. It's not too hot, but you can still actually go outside, which is awesome.
Folks in the GTA were out enjoying the spring-like weather on the last day of winter. We had to deal with a fair bit of snow this year, so that makes days like this even sweeter.
Remember to keep up to date day and night at ctvnewstoronto.ca, and you can download the CTV News app.
In business news, the future of Hudson's Bay remains up in the air as Canada's oldest company awaits a court decision on its looming liquidation. CTV's Sean Leathong has the latest.
Well, Hudson Bay stores will stay open until at least Friday, with lawyers for the company saying they are engaging with stakeholders and are working towards a resolution that would allow them to liquidate all 93 stores, that being broken up between 80 locations for Hudson Bay, 3 locations for Saks Fifth Avenue, and 10 locations for Saks off Fifth Avenue. Now, lawyers for Hudson Bay today were saying that they have engaged with their stakeholders and they are moving forward with some progress. We do know that earlier on in the week they had applied for the possibility to liquidate their stores, with many stakeholders, many businesses, many suppliers raising concerns about exactly what would happen in the interim. So far, discussions have been moving forward. They say they can make payroll for the next couple of days. Landlords will be paid in that time, and their distribution center will continue working until at least Friday. Now, Justice Peter Osborne from Ontario Superior Court raising the concern that there is time. Time is sensitive because the longer they go, the more items are sold, the less valuable the company will become. But he says he sees that there is sufficient liquidity in the company to grant this stay. So as we know that there could have been a liquidation as early on Tuesday, it will be pushed until at least tomorrow or possibly Friday. What would change that? If they come to a resolution by tomorrow, they will be called back to court here and begin moving forward. But they say they need at least 2 days to continue moving forward. They say it could be as long as Friday before we get word and before we get a decision on whether that liquidation will go ahead. Sean Leathong, CTV News.
On the markets, the Canadian dollar dropped to 69.82 cents U.S. Western Canadian Select Oil was down 41 cents to close at 56.16 a barrel, and the TSX Composite was up just over 363 points to 25,069.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
Canada's population reached an all-time high despite growth continuing to slow. Stats Canada says the population grew to 41.5 million as of January 1st. That's up 0.2% from October of last year. Population growth has slowed since peaking in the third quarter of 2023, and Stats Can says it saw the slowest growth rate since 2020, when pandemic border restrictions were in place.
Just ahead, giving back one meal at a time to feed those who are fasting during Ramadan. Details on the effort to provide support with a smile coming up. Finally tonight, an effort to feed the hungry during the holy month of Ramadan.
CTV Jessica Smith has details of a local initiative that also honors victims of gun violence in the city.
Giving back to the community one fresh meal at a time while honoring the memory of those lost to gun violence. That's the idea behind the group Smile for Saatchi.
Smile for Saatchi is a nonprofit organization in commemoration of my younger brother who passed away from gun violence. It is a program where we bring the community together.
Their flagship program, called Feed the Fasting, is all about providing fresh and nourishing meals to people in the GTA facing food insecurity during Ramadan.
Where we feed people for all 30 days of Ramadan, and we give it out to people who are less fortunate, who are facing food insecurity.
Al Adib, the group's CEO and executive director, says over the past 4 years, the community-funded organization has seen more than 2,000 volunteers give their time to make and deliver more than 12,000 meals.
This program is completely community-funded, so for the past 4 years, we have used community funds to fund this program.
The volunteers drop off the food each day to local community centers, mosques, and anywhere they are needed locally in the GTA and across the province.
To be able to know that
I'm a part of something that's able to help and deliver food to people in need just makes me so warm.
The long-term goal is to take the program nationally and eventually globally to help combat food shortages no matter where you are. For more information on how to become a volunteer or to make a donation, Adib says you can visit smileforsachi.org or visit their Instagram, Smile for Sachi. Jessica Smith, CTV News, Toronto.
Food looked good, didn't it?
Oh, we're all starving now by watching that. Weather-wise, enjoy it while it lasts.
Maybe fire up the barbecue, enjoy dinner in the backyard because it's a lovely evening, and the sun not going to set until just before 7:30 p.m. and then waking up tomorrow. This is a look at what we're in for. We're welcoming spring at 5 a.m. with a few spring showers. So yes, going to be a little unsettled. It is going to be mild. The temperature expected to fall as the day goes on. We might hold on to double digits in the afternoon, but eventually we drop to a low of -4. And then here's a look at the rest of the 7-day forecast. Friday, sunshine, but cooler over the weekend, especially Saturday night and into Sunday. And then we'll be a little below seasonal through much of next week with the chance of flurries at times. And a reminder, tonight's Lotto 649 Gold Ball jackpot is $32 million, plus the classic $5 million jackpot. You can buy your tickets in-store or at olg.ca. Play responsibly, 18+. Michelle and Nathan.
Thanks, Lindsay. That's it for us. But be sure to join Todd Vanderhayden tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Andrea Case with our next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and the whole team here at CTV News, thanks for watching and have a great night.